Are memes a true form of digital expression or just a cheap way to get a laugh?
Welcome to Voice Notes Suck with Jay and Dave.
From political commentary to inside jokes, memes are everywhere. Layered, fast-moving, and often misunderstood. But what do they actually mean? And why do we connect with them so quickly? Today, we're diving into the strange and powerful world of memes.
Jay, it's episode 3 of season 3 of Voice Notes Suck. It's really exciting. We're also recording several of these at the same time, and by several, there's at least 3 going on at the same time, possibly 4, which is an interesting experience all on its own. But I don't want to get too distracted with that. This episode is Me, Meme, Me, and it's all about memes and internet culture and how people communicate with memes, and some more things about memes as well. It's definitely having an impact on young people. It's definitely having an impact on social media. And there is a financial value being attributed to some memes in the world of crypto, blockchain technology. There are meme tokens that are running some pretty impressive numbers in terms of that financial value. And I find the whole topic fascinating, and I want to learn a little bit more, which is why I wanted to talk about it during season 3. I don't know if you've got any initial thoughts on memes or if we're just going to get straight into it.
You know what, Dave? I feel like my initial thought about memes is explaining what a meme is, because not everyone actually knows what a meme is unless you're in that kind of culture or circle of people. And I think it's different for coins, crypto. I think it's different for those things. I think it's different for actual memes. What is a meme, Dave? Let's get into this nitty-gritty. What is a meme?
I was expecting you to give me a definition, Jay. I have gone straight to Google. Well, actually Bing in this instance, but that's another story. I've gone straight to Bing and asked it what is a meme. Actually, I've asked it for a meme definition. And it is an image, a video, a piece of text, etc., typically humorous in nature, that is copied and spread rapidly by internet users, often with slight variations, or an element of a culture or system of behaviour passed from one individual to another by imitation or other non-genetic means. So, is that how you would have described a meme? I mean, it's pretty close to how I'd have described a meme. I just might have said it slightly differently to the dictionary definition.
How bizarre. Don't you think that sounds like a virus? Is that not how viruses are spread? That's interesting. It's not a cultural virus, is it?
It is how viruses spread, Jay. It's exactly how viruses spread. Are memes cultural viruses? I think it depends on the meme. I think it allows ideas to spread faster than maybe they've ever been able to spread before from a communication and historical communication perspective. You might have to wait for a letter or for a newspaper to go to print or for the 6 o'clock news or the 9 o'clock news, depending where you are in the country or in the world. Whereas now, it's if you've got internet access and people are liking, sharing a specific meme, lots of people get to see that almost instantaneously. So, yeah, I mean, yes, it is like a virus in terms of how it spreads. Are memes a virus? I don't think so. I think they're like political cartoons almost, in a way, at times. Sometimes they could be particularly virulent thoughts, maybe. But I would prefer to think of them like, you know, political cartoons and a social commentary that's just able to be spread far quicker than has ever happened before.
So are you saying there that memes are essentially the modern day political propaganda? The propaganda machine is clearly going to take advantage of memes, surely.
I was actually trying to say the opposite, Jay. Maybe I didn't express it very well. But it almost, I see political cartoons sort of poking fun at, politicians and decisions as an anarchistic thing, rather than a corporate cog or a political cog. However, you are right, definitely is being used by companies and political entities to drive home their points as well. And yeah, it makes sense. It does make sense that all sorts of people are using them. I think they're particularly powerful, and I think they can be particularly powerful for the common person.
I've never liked memes. I find them grotty in a way. They're a bit... they don't make me feel good whenever I see one, because a lot of the time I don't understand it, and the other part of me is like, this is a really strange form of communication.
I think from the communication aspect, it's more a way of delivering a message that people can align with and jump on board with. And very often, they're based around a niche event or a current event. And if you're not paying attention to some of the events that are happening in society, or if you're not aware of some of the internet sensations that have happened that memes are based on, it can be difficult. I think very often they're supposed to be funny, and they're not funny unless you know what they're talking about. And I wonder if that adds something to the reasons why you feel that way about them.
I just find them quite immature. There's a real immaturity about them. Almost like it's just like loads of lads doing it. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, and I think I might know one of the reasons for that, or why you see it that way. And I feel it's because most of your exposure to memes has been within cryptocurrency or the blockchain or Web3, whatever you want to call it. And all of the meme culture within that industry is exactly how you just described it.
No, it isn't. I've existed outside of that culture, Dave. I've been alive for a long time. I've seen a lot of memes, and I just find them they're just very immature. That's all I can say about them, really.
That's fair enough. And I take your point that a lot of memes are childish. I'm not disagreeing with that. Do you think you'd have found them childish when you were a teenager, young adult? Because I also think that a large proportion of memes are pushed by that age group.
I'd have been using them all the time, especially with my band Trans Element. We'd have been all over memes. We would have used them on everything. We'd have probably just lived our entire lives through memes. It's only because I'm like in my 40s and I'm just probably a bit grumpy when it comes to that stuff. I just find it, I don't know, it's just like I'll use GIFs because I like sometimes to communicate through a GIF or a GIF or whatever the heck it's called. But when it comes to memes, maybe it's just a lack of understanding on my part. Maybe I need to do a bit more research. Maybe I need to explore them a bit more.
So you mentioned GIFs, and they are GIFs, Jay, certainly from my perspective, definitely GIFs. You mentioned them, and I think it's a really good point because they are essentially a type of meme. They are short form communication via imagery, and that's kind of what a meme is, isn't it? Like using imagery and a little bit of language, a little bit of text to convey a message. And that's exactly what you're doing when you use a GIF. And this is what I mean, like our culture has changed in the modern age, in the digital age, if you like, and probably from the late 90s, early 2000s, when GIFs and memes first started to be used.
Yeah, but the problem with them, really, is that they're massively open to interpretation. A GIF might mean one thing to one person and a different thing to someone else.
So my question or retort is that any different from text?
Well, yeah, because culturally, certain visuals represent different things, don't they? And there's a certain amount of emotion and embedded into a moving image, but it might not be the same emotion for one person as it is for the other.
I feel that's very, very similar to written communication. Like, how often is an email misconstrued? How often do people think that someone's being aggressive when they're not? I think what you're highlighting is risks of communication rather than a specific risk to a meme or a GIF. That's my personal opinion, of course.
All right, yeah, no, I was referring to misunderstanding. If there's a meme or a GIF, it's the misunderstanding of it. Like some memes I've seen, I have no idea what it is, no idea whatsoever. What can you do then? You either strike up a conversation about it, which is always helpful, or you just look at it and go, don't understand it, and then move on. Which one is the better option?
So there's two things there. First of all, I agree with you, especially with images across different cultures, different languages as a form of communication, that there is the opportunity for misunderstanding to come in. But I think that's the same for all forms of communication. I don't think GIFs or memes are different in terms of creating an opportunity for misunderstanding. I just think they're a different type of communication. And if you don't understand them, do you move on or do you ask the question? I guess it depends on your personal circumstances and how you feel at the time and whether you think it could relate to you or not. Like, is it a meme or a GIF about something that you're passionate about or about something within society that you want to, where you want to be part of the conversation? Or is it, a video game meme that has no relevance to you whatsoever? Like, I think if you want an understanding and you don't understand it, you need to strike up the conversation. You need to ask the question. Otherwise, you'll never find out.
Yeah, but we've reached a stage now, I feel like, where even the people sending the memes and GIFs don't know what the meme or the GIF is from. They just think it's funny.
I can understand that, and comic relief offers a lot to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Do you think that's a good or a bad thing, or just a thing, and something that we're going to have to maybe not understand, but accept, even if it's not something that we fully align with or we individually fully understand?
I don't know if it creates some weird sense of detachment from reality. I think that's my concern. It's completely detached from what we would consider normal reality, I suppose. It's very, very wedged into the digital realm, don't you think?
I completely agree. However, I also think that we're at the beginning of a digital revolution, and have been essentially since the iPhone. It started slightly before then, but since the iPhone came out in 2007, like, everything's changed. Everything's changed from a digital perspective, and it only makes sense that there's kind of a new digital language being used. I definitely agree that there's a detachment there, but then I think that detachment spills out into the rest of the digital world as well. I find it fascinating because it's like, it's an extension of communication, or it's a new way to communicate, or a different way to communicate. And I find that whole section, that whole field of humanity, that the way we communicate and how it impacts us individually, I find the whole thing absolutely fascinating.
Do you think it might be? You think it might not be just a passing phase, though, just a passing trend? What's going to be the next thing? Or do you think it's here to stay forever and ever? Amen.
I don't think it might not be. I think that's the right answer. I think this is something that's going to, as long as we've got the ability to communicate digitally with imagery, I think a little bit of text and a little bit of imagery is here to stay. I think memes and GIFs aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Just like, text messages and emails aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And effectively, they're just a form of letter, aren't they, really, which has been around for a long old time.
It's just also temporary, though, because it's digital. There's nothing tangible. There's nothing really that traceable when you go back a year or something. It's a very temporary. It feels like a very temporary, transient thing. We're more at risk of losing track and losing sight of that kind of language than, I don't know, like hieroglyphics. It's not too dissimilar to hieroglyphics, really, is it?
Yes, Jay, definitely kind of like hieroglyphics. It's communication via imagery at the end of the day. And I think that's something that humans have always done, whether it's through art, whether it's through music, whether it's through memes, as we're currently talking about. It's fascinating. Definitely going to lose a lot of memes over time, and a lot of memes will become irrelevant over time. I can fully appreciate that. But then you've got things like Pepe the Frog that seem to hang around and be relevant for a long old time. It's a fascinating world, and I'm going to move on from that and say, with the advent of cryptocurrencies, and this isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, but with the advent of cryptocurrencies and being able to add a financial tangibility to a meme, I find that fascinating. And I know that there's risks with cryptocurrencies, with tokens within cryptocurrencies. And I know it's a highly volatile market. And I know that there's a lot of issues that the industry needs to sort out. But being able to add a tangible value to what is essentially a social phenomenon behind a meme is something that I find incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, but that's just because people want to capitalise on literally everything. We've reached like the pinnacle, haven't we, of monetisation when people are monetising memes and turning them into currency. Don't you think?
I've had to think about how I word this reply, Jay, because you're definitely right. There is 100% an aspect of that, and probably a large chunk of the people releasing tokens are financially minded. Like, they're looking for financial wins for themselves. They're not looking to do anything else. However, I still believe that humanity has a need for community, for being part of something that is bigger than ourselves individually. And I think we've lost, certainly in the Western world, I think we've lost a lot of opportunities to do that, or they're not as open and accessible as they potentially once were. So it's really hard to become part of a community. And because of that, I kind of see this as a little bit of a cultural phenomenon of people looking to be part of something bigger than themselves, to feel like they are part of a community. And in some instances, we definitely see that happening. And that kind of, what that does is it adds a tangible value to an online community, which I just find it completely fascinating from a social perspective as much as from a financial perspective.
No, I do understand and appreciate that. I understand the why. I do. Because it's quite a common, daily, familiar thing is money, isn't it? We all, every single person on the planet has some kind of relationship with money. They don't always have some kind of relationship with art. They don't always have some kind of relationship with, I don't know, science or whatever. But the one common thing that everybody shares is that relationship with money. So I understand why it would easily create a community. I just worry sometimes that, what's the purpose of it? I know why people do this. It creates community, it's fun, it's having fun. Is that it? Is it just because it's fun? Or is there something to be gained from it?
That's a big question at the end. And I think it depends. I think when it comes to money, it's very player v player, right? It's you versus the world when it comes to money. And that's something that society has implemented. It's about you as an individual. It's not about all of us together. So when you're talking about money within crypto in relation to memes, rather than building a community, you're kind of building an anti-community. You're promoting the individual, but within a community. It's a paradox almost. From memes themselves, I think they're a short form of internet communication, essentially. And if there's no traction, if people don't vibe with the meme, if they don't appreciate it, if they don't find it funny, if they don't believe in the message that meme's trying to deliver, it never gets shared and it never turns into a meme. So yeah, I think there is more to meme communities than just money. I think when you look at meme tokens within crypto, I think that's even more monetarily driven than most of crypto, and most of crypto is insanely monetarily driven.
It still feels like a very niche market, though. I know for a fact there will be people listening there who will not have a clue what's going on or what we're talking about. I think it needs some kind of deeper explanation. I don't know if we've got time for that here, but it does need explaining.
Memes in general, or the potential value behind memes from a cryptocurrency token perspective, because they are two completely different things, but they wrap into each other.
It's the crypto side of it all. I just think that it makes people feel a bit odd, because it's quite a confusing place to be if you've not been involved in it.
This is going to be a two-parter. This is part one. And I think, first of all, cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, it is a very broad subject. It is quite daunting or potentially confusing if you've not ventured into that subject before, if you don't know anything about it. There's a lot of negative press about it. There's a lot of bad things that potentially happen within that space. But it's definitely something that I want to talk about more in the future. Blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, ownership, all of these things I feel wrap into each other, and it's something that excites me. It's a topic that I'm passionate about. I'm going to come back to you on the memes in just one moment. Memes and the financial value attributed to meme tokens via cryptocurrencies or the cryptocurrency market is a broad subject, and it will be difficult for people to comprehend. It's difficult for people within crypto to comprehend a lot of the time, but essentially the technology is there, so anyone can start a token. They don't need any skills. They don't need to be able to code. Anyone can start a token, and anyone can send a meme, and anyone can attach those two things together. And then if there's enough people involved and there's enough market pressure, you can add a financial value to that meme. And I know that doesn't explain it, and it potentially leads to more questions than it does answers. But I think anything more is overly complex at the moment.
So can you buy a cabbage with an animated GIF?
We are definitely in double figures of me trying to leave this message now, Jay. Your cabbage comment completely has thrown me completely. Anyway, cabbage aside. Why cabbage, by the way? Why not some other random vegetable? Cabbage aside, we don't need to talk about cabbage. We don't need to stop on this aspect of memes for that long. I think from a social perspective, I find it fascinating. And from a selfish perspective, I wanted to talk about that you can attribute a financial value to a community based on a meme or a GIF or, an image on the internet. Like, the concept of that is something that intrigues me and something I want to explore. But yeah, I mean, it's internet culture taking a step forward, isn't it, essentially? And it all wraps into internet culture. And like it or lump it, we're kind of stuck with internet culture. And memes, in a way, kind of drive that, to take it away from the crypto side of things and back to the funny image or the social commentary aspect of it. Memes drive a lot of internet culture. Probably something you know more about than me, the internet culture aspect.
Honestly, dude, it's a huge privilege to be alive and able to use the internet. I do wonder how much of the world aren't able to use the internet and what they experience as a result of that. That would be interesting to look at.
what happens to people who don't encounter memes? What happens to the people who, like a lot of the older generation, a lot of the grandparents, a lot of the elders may have no concept of memes. They may not understand what they are or where they come from or have any inkling about anything. They don't benefit them. Nothing bad happens because they don't see them. So really, we're living in quite a almost divisive time in that regard. There's like a severance happening. It feels like there's a severance every year, actually. Every month now. According to the Mayans, this was predicted. Did you know that?
Jay, you left so much in such a short message. I was not aware that the Mayans predicted this. I was aware that they predicted a lot of things. They also predicted the world ending in 2012. They're a few years out on that one. I mean, it might end in 2025. I hope it doesn't, but it might. Nothing's impossible, right? And the thing that you mentioned, we are so incredibly lucky to have access to the internet. But it speaks to the title of this podcast, of this episode, because me, it's such an individualistic thing, the internet. And even all of the things within memes that we've discussed today, whilst they can hit a broader societal feel and they can go to lots of people in society and many people can get behind the same meme, you're still doing it from a very individualistic perspective. It's all about me. And I think the internet encourages those kind of behaviours. I want to speak very quickly to the generational gap that you suggested might happen there. And I just think that's a matter of priorities changing as you go through your life. And that at a certain point, your priorities are no longer about learning new things and being excited about new things. And they're about focusing on, family, health, the people around you, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, just for the record, the Mayans didn't predict the end of the world. They predicted the end of the world as we know it. And they were on point, dude. They were on point. Definitely worth checking out a presentation by a chap called Ian Lungold, who explains it really, really well about the time condensing and our experience of consciousness evolving in a more condensed space of time. Like it'll end up in a year. We'll start seeing new innovations in a year. Then it'll get more condensed to 6 months. It'll just get more and more and more and more condensed until, and you'll know where this is coming from and you'll understand what I'm saying, until whatever we imagine we can create. Does that sound familiar?
You're going to need to provide a link. You can't say things like that and then not tell people they can find the link to it below. You've got to say that bit. And it does sound rather familiar, doesn't it? Look, we can't start a new topic as the episode's ending, Jay. Maybe we need to book this one in for series 4. But I've really enjoyed this discussion. I know this one was all about me. It was all about me. It was me that wanted to talk about memes and their current impacts. But we are actually out of time. And it's your turn to summarise, Jay. So we'll go away, do some work in the background, get the summary ready, and we'll come back to you with a summary at some point. For you, it'll be instantaneously. For Jay and myself, it might take a moment or two to get that together.
So in this episode, we explored memes, what they are, how they function, and their cultural significance. We debated whether memes are a form of social commentary, a cultural virus, or even a new kind of political propaganda. Are they the modern version of political cartoons, or do they serve a different purpose? We also examine memes as a niche form of communication, often relying on context to be understood, and how GIFs play a role in this evolving digital language. Are memes just a passing trend, or are they here to stay as part of our digital landscape? Finally, we touched on the financial side of memes, particularly in the world of cryptocurrency and meme coins, where communities rally around digital humour in a way that can drive real-world value. But does meme culture encourage individualism over community, pushing a player versus player mentality online? We break it all down in this episode of Voice Notes Suck. Thanks for listening to episode 3 of series 3, Me, Meme, Me. Please take a moment to follow or subscribe, like and share our podcast. It makes a huge difference. And feel free to continue the conversation in the comments and tell us how you feel about all this stuff. You can find all of our relevant links in the description. Dave's been Dave, I've been Jay, and we'll see you next time for another episode of Voice Notes Suck. You've been listening to Voice Notes Suck with Jay and Dave.